What is up again for another incredible episode? We are back for episode number 3 with the ever so popular Mr. Nowoslawski. How do you make relevant emails? Because you got some of the coolest personalized emails that I've seen. And at your volume, you have to be doing something funky.
Yeah, so we're using the custom fields. One thing that I would even call like a little bit of an Easter egg in SmartLead is that if you have Eric at Growth Engine X as a lead updated, if you're trying to copy somebody else's AI strategy, you're doing the wrong thing. You need to be thinking about what do you research companies and how does it change your message? I think longer emails are coming back into style because I think people kind of know now and they're kind of used to this just short, punchy.
How do you A/B test, man? I think that's it. I don't even want to go too structured on this question. How do you A/B test something like this? Like, how does this even, how do you figure out that this is where I need to go? Like, I mean, you're a genius, we know it. What is up again for another incredible episode? If you've been time warped and you think me and Eric look exactly the same, it's because it is exactly the same. You're watching this a few days later, but we recorded this a few minutes later. We are back for episode number 3 with the ever so popular Mr. Nowoslawski, I apologize, who is running the foundations and fundamentals of almost everything outbound in the world nowadays. He is used as a reference point in most outbound emails as, hey, the Eric Nowoslawski approach, or I worked with Eric, is now the standard in the market. So a privilege to have you on, sir. It's very difficult to get you, and rightfully so. It should be. Thank you for being on. Let's take another 15 minutes on some bullshit with personalization.
Absolutely. You're always too kind.
I've got one more after this. Boy, yeah. So, all right. 3, 2, 1. We are on board. 6 million emails is what you told me last time. How in the hell are you personalizing that? You spoke very lightly about something to do with using Clay's little Christmas gift they have where you can even get like pricing data and stuff. But give us something. Tell us, how do you make relevant emails? Because you got some of the coolest personalized emails that I've seen. And at your volume, you have to be doing something funky.
Yeah. So I feel like I have a lot of tips when it comes to AI prompting. But so it's like we have AI that we use that is based on a trigger, and then we have AI that like every person with a reasonable website and a valid email address should be getting as well too. And so I don't know, the biggest thing is like, I tell everybody, if you're trying to copy somebody else's AI strategy, you're doing the wrong thing. You need to be thinking about what do you research companies and how does it change your message? So if you're to research a company for 10 minutes, what are you looking for and how does that change your message? And we always try to work backwards from that when we talk to our customers in that zone. Probably the most common personalizations that we're doing for people, though, is finding some kind of company description, either from their SEO description or their LinkedIn company description. Or if we have to, we'll use Claygen to just pull something kind of cheap from their website of a description. And then the most common thing that we're doing is taking the value proposition of the customer that we're working with and then applying it to that company. So even if it's something horizontal like Clay, it would be then, hey, you specifically could use this to find other outbound managers that you could sell your email services to. And then it has like this horizontal thing where like Clay can apply to so many different use cases and do so many different things. Or if it's something that the service is the same for everybody, it would then be, hey, we'll take care of the bookkeeping for you so that you can focus on helping fitness enthusiasts breathe better or whatever it might be. So that way every email gets personalized. And so far we do all of this with 4.0 mini. My bill for OpenAI, even though like the API keys that my team has access to are not allowed to use anything other than 4.0 mini. So I know for a fact all we're doing is spending money on 4.0 mini. We still spend anywhere from like $13,000 to $15,000 a month on OpenAI. I think predominantly most of that spend is probably in Claygen with a lot of the research that we're doing live from the website. And so we've just done some testing, and I think enough testing that other people should be taking advantage of this too. We started moving more of our content writing over to OpenRouter and taking advantage of the OSS 120 billion and 20 billion models, mainly because those models benchmark at like, so the OSS 20 billion open source model from OpenAI benchmarks at the same standard as O3 Mini. And
Got it. Hmm.
we don't need to do calculus. We just need it to write a sentence reasonably well and listen to our instructions. And that's a third of the cost of 4.0 Mini. The speed, the Open Router team keeps telling me that the speed, you can just open up the HTTP request and just let it rip and there's not going to be problems. But for some reason, using our dedicated API key on OpenAI still runs faster than that. But when we have something that we know we can take a little bit of time on and we have plenty of leads and we're processing things, or if we're doing industry classifications, so, hey, is this a SaaS company or is this not a SaaS company based on this input? We're pushing it to Open Router now so we can save cost, but get access to those higher benchmark models as well. Because
Interesting.
OSS 20 billion is a third of the cost of 4.0 Mini, and 120 billion is half the cost of 4.0 Mini. And you're getting a reasoning model out of it as well, too. So that's the most recent change hack thing we've
Nice.
started
Okay.
doing.
Cool.
Yeah, still using OpenAI natively in Clay. One, because I don't think there's a way that we could get around to Claygent. We're doing a little bit of stuff of testing with a platform called Jinna.ai and
Oh yeah.
seeing if we can just pull down the website content. And then if you get the first 2 pages of the website content, maybe then getting that, or maybe Firecall can help us with that too. But honestly, Claygent is so good and it runs so fast. It's almost like just paying the 0.001
So,
or whatever we're paying each
yeah.
time is fine for it. Um, and so anyway, when we're personalizing a lot of these, we're using 4.0 Mini for everything. We use a ton of examples. I think your prompt is obviously very important,
Mhm.
but also just writing out 3 examples manually of what you want your sentence to look
Mhm.
like is probably even more important. And then we've got a system prompt that, and I could give the system prompt away, but you could also just make it yourself. We also have a system prompt that any prospect facing message that we're about to
Mm.
create has to have this system prompt in it. And it's basically just like, hey, we're going to be writing a message and we want to be speaking at a 5th grade reading level. It's going to be a persuasive message. You follow the instructions exactly and never use these 50 words. And it's like innovate, synergies, leverage, any kind of this corporate jargon. And so if you were to just go to ChatGPT right now and just say, hey, write a system prompt so I can have control over this, it's just a generalized system prompt to say, speak at a 5th grade reading level, follow my instructions in the main prompt exactly, and here's some words to stay away from. And funny enough, as simple as that is, it really helped a lot of our outputs as well too. And so I would say on the basic level, that's a lot of the stuff that we're doing for scale and for cost to be able
I have
to
one question
push
on
the
that
volume.
part. Because you said using 4.0 Mini and you got 3 examples, which will then take in your token costs anyway, right? Would have you actually tried just going with 4.0 and just giving lesser prompting examples and that way saving on token costs?
Yes, the last time I've tested this, and sometimes I'm a little quick to make decisions, and we can probably test this a little bit more too. The last time I tested this, it was only on something like 50 rows, but with 3 examples on 4.0 Mini versus 1 example on 4.0, it still was cheaper. And it was just like, okay,
More
I should
predictable.
probably test more. But I think the thing that I'm more interested in now is, especially with the fact that Open Router is hosting these open source models, I'd actually be more interested in the main problem we're having with Open Router is it's not natively integrated in Clay and it's not as easy to use. So you
Mm.
do have to create the JSON yourself. So a lot of times we will make the decision to switch Open Router on here and there, and I have to be the one making the prompt. So I am thinking about how can we make the JSON payload easy enough that anybody on the team could just screenshot what they want the prompt to look like and then the JSON outputs, which it's very easy, but you have to make it so that somebody who's in a rush can do it right every time. And that's really the thing that we're focused on right now. So I'm not so interested in testing 4.0 as much as I am in diving into Open Router and just using the cheaper models with maybe even more
Okay.
examples and
Okay.
doing that. Yeah.
Makes sense. I want to just silo into this because the natural part of you using AI to write these messages through is going to come from the perspective that you've actually prompted it in some format with the ICP and something to do with the actual, like, here's what you're writing for, right? Because how does that part work? Is that all Clay generated? And maybe let's just jump into that just a quick second, right? Is how does your segmentation strategy actually operate? Like, how do you take a broad ICP and then how do you bring that into personalization? Because it's like verbatim, like what we spoke about just I guess last week or a few seconds ago, is you have a very heavy top of funnel, and then you have a very unique way of siphoning that through something very specific. So maybe I'm missing a piece over here and I didn't pick that up, but how do you take that broad thing? How do you then create system prompts or personal prompts per single lead and still maintain the ICP dynamically? Because is it the way you segment your campaigns are per ICP and that's what helps, or do you have multi ICPs per campaign? Because I know you do follow micro campaign strategy as well. So
yeah, well, actually, I don't know. We don't really do micro campaigns anymore, and maybe I'm dumb for not doing that. We just won't even work with somebody who doesn't have a TAM of 100,000 people, and if the micro campaign comes out because we're running some kind of play thing that branches into a micro campaign, then fine, so be it. But yeah, we kind of stay away from micro campaigns too much now. So the way we do this is we will front load. Okay. Because I'm always asking the customer what, you want to send a different email. If it's the chief marketing officer versus if it's the director of paid media, what's that email and how does it actually change? And so then we get them to say it on a call. And then we go to ChatGPT and we just say, okay, make a matrix of all the different ICPs that they want to be sending to, whether it's a department ICP or it's an interdepartment ICP with different job roles that goes with it as well too. And then we will get all of those bullet points together. And then one mistake in the state of the way that Clay is currently at, I'll see people upload that as like a mini database into Clay and then use lookup row and other column to like AI generate. Okay, this is a director of growth. And for this campaign, we want to message directors of growth similarly to director of paid medias. Do a lookup and then find the value propositions that change for them and how the prompt should change for them. We actually were doing that. And then in the state of the way that Clay is right now, I don't know why this is the case, but Clay created integrations like lookup row and other column, normalize a domain, not so much write to table, normalize the company name. They have hangups for some reason that I've reported to the team that we'll actually just bake it straight into a formula. And we find that formulas run instantaneously and they're accomplishing the same thing. So we'll bake that into a formula of if AI puts them into this bucket, output these persona variables. If AI puts them into this bucket, output these persona variables. And then we get along and then we start creating the AI column. So probably the most complicated repeatable AI that we're creating is our 3 creative ideas campaign, which is by far the most successful campaign that we have run. And when we onboard new customers, we've worked with publicly traded companies that the best campaign is the 3 creative ideas campaign. And so if you've never heard me talk about it, basically we have some kind of opening line, whether it's AI generated or not, some kind of line explaining what we do or some kind of problem statement like Josh Braun teaches a poke the bear question. And then we say, basically, I had 3 ideas about how we could help you in particular. And the reason why this is the hardest one to do is because we have templates for just, hey, I saw on your website you're helping people. I saw on your website you're helping fitness enthusiasts breathe better, and I had a question for you. We're probably overusing that one now, and we need to start thinking about the next iteration of what we're going to be doing. Just while I'm on that topic, what we are testing right now is in the first line, kind of shooting ourselves in the foot and being like, you might not be the person who buys software for these reasons, but I'm reaching out anyway for this reason. Because I noticed when I send recruiting, I noticed when I send recruiting LinkedIn DMs, I caught myself like when I was manually writing them, I was like, hey, I could see you not being interested because of this, but I just wanted to check. I was like, nobody would ever automate. Oh, I don't think you'd be interested in this, but I wanted to check. I was literally like, I was LinkedIn messaging other outbound agency owners that looked like they only had one employee. And I was like, oh, like, I know you're running your own thing, but what would you think about, joining a team? And I don't know, we got responses off of it and something that we're tinkering with. But anyway, so then that's super easy. You could have a template for that. That template could run the same way every single time. The creative ideas campaign is tougher because the first thing that we have to think about is we used to run the creative ideas campaign where bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3 was just made up by AI and we would just go. We were running this for Trigify at one point, and then he would come to us and he's like, hey, it's starting to say some things that like, like we could do, but it's like not really what we do. I'm like, okay, so sorry. So now what we do is we dedicate line 1, line 2, and line 3 to main idea points. So if it were for Smart Lead, it's like, okay, hey, we can, when you're emailing you know, business owners to help them with their outbound lead generation, we could explain, you could do XYZ. And then in line 2, instead of just like naming their customers and how they could be reaching out to more of them, line 2 is then create inboxes at no extra cost for this person on your team and this person on your team. And like we're just forcing it to be custom for every single thing that we're doing. And then, so one, we first decide in the campaign strategy with the customer, what is line 1 going to be about? What is line 2 going to be about? What is line 3 going to be about? And then we decide, okay, does the persona matter and how does it matter? And then we have the persona value props, like I was just talking about, as a lookup or a formula, whatever you want to call it. And then we will have an account manager or myself write the lines manually, and we'll literally pull up their list, and they will say, okay, would you send an email to this person? They say yes. Okay, great. You would send an email to this person. Would you say this for line 1, list for line 2, list for line 3? Yes. And then we find we need at least 3 bullet point. We need 3 examples to make a good output that we can trust out in the wild. And so then that's probably the most repeatable, complicated one that we do, that it's, I mean, all of the steps, we do all the prompting. And then I think the biggest thing is manually writing all of them as well too. But that's like kind of a look into how that's our most often, not even requested. It's just like somebody comes to us, they're like, we're doing this. Like this is just happening. This is what it's gonna look like. Here we go. And that's how we put that one together.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Now, you've spoken about this. You constantly repeated the fact that you sort of chip in information from Clay into SL, right? Where you don't necessarily always send the entire thing across, but you sort of stitch it along the way.
Yeah.
I want to jump into that a little bit, which is, how are you doing that? What features of SmartLead or Clay or SmartLead alone are you using to help that stitching? Is it just, are you customizing the variables and then putting in your email copy saying, line 1, line 2, line 3, and allowing it to sort of dynamically feed in? And if that happens, does that mean you don't care about the whole spin taxing part anymore because everything is so personalized, it really doesn't matter? I guess I want to jump into how you're effectively taking personalized information and you're merging that into to SmartLead. How does that work in terms of...
We are so we're using the custom fields. One thing that I would even call like a little bit of an Easter egg in SmartLead is that if you have Eric at Growth Engine X as a lead updated, and then you put the custom variable as email first line, if you have Eric at Growth Engine X in 2 different campaigns, one of those objects is going to win. And I call it an Easter egg because I didn't know that for the longest time until we actually had a mistake, which, funny for the viewers, it was like the mistake that we made was we were running a campaign trying to do virtual assistant staffing. So our first line was all about the boring tasks that people would do. And then and then in that campaign, we were like, hey, we could offload all these boring tasks for you. And then we were also running a private equity campaign. So we were also asking, hey, it looks like you help this, and how's business been going lately? Do you want to sell your business? But then the campaigns kind of got merged. And then we said, like, we reached out to somebody, and it wasn't even bad. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, we need to do something about this. We said something, and we reached out to somebody that like helps poor people in like a charity. And we're like, oh my God, you must be so bored with managing the like passing around donations and emailing these people back. You should sell the business. And I was like, oh yeah, we need to do something about that. So now what we'll do is we know the SmartLead campaign ID, because now when we're pushing in custom variables, we're filling out a form in Airtable, and then we'll have the custom variables, and we're creating the SmartLead campaign ID in that flow. We will then take the smart lead campaign ID and append them to the custom variable. So even if we put in first line, it'll also be.
Just do it.
And I remember the days when campaign IDs used to be like campaign 20,000, and now it's like campaign 257862894.
2.9 million,
Yeah,
2.9 million,
that.
3 million.
And so then
Yep.
that's how we'll keep it the same. We're not that big on spin taxing, and yes, everything is so dynamic. That is true. But also, I think unless you're sending something like 3 or 4,000 emails a day on the same campaign, we haven't seen a huge lift in doing it. But there have been times that we forgot to spin tax something where we were sending like 20,000 emails a day, and then it did make a difference to be spin taxing it. So I used to be a spin tax non-believer, and now I'm back to being a spin tax believer, especially on the hypertight accounts where there's like you're kind of hammering that domain over and over, and the sending over and over from an outbound sender who's like really checking what you're sending every time. So yes, we're using custom variables. I can think of one campaign that we take the whole email and generate everything and then push it into Smartlead. Mostly also because of my fear around like spacing. And if it looks perfect in Clay, is it absolutely going to look perfect in Smartlead? And it usually does. And I don't really understand how that gets done. Like the 3 bullet points thing is always on different lines. And I don't really know how that gets done because it kind of shouldn't, but somehow you two have figured that out and it does work. So we are using a custom variable.
So I think Clay.
Yeah, the other thing too is I love adding PS lines to add flavor to the campaign.
Yeah. You've spoken about this in the past. Yeah.
But I tell the entire team, unless otherwise noted, do not block this person from being put in a smart lead campaign because the PS line doesn't fit. So our PS line is always the whole line is a custom variable. So if we don't have it, it's not like we say PS and then blank. The whole line is a custom variable because it's usually something that we'll just take a shot on. So now everybody has case studies on their website. So then it'll be like, okay, hey, I saw the great work you did with Intercom and how you helped them automate email sending. Even if we never connect, kudos on the work you did with them. We might say that, but if we don't have that, I don't want to drop that person from the email sending. And so then every PS line is a full custom variables, just so that if we don't have it, we can just move on and it'll just stay blank. So anyway.
Fair play. I think that's a good one because instead of just saying PS and then it's blank, you actually have that. Awesome. That's actually a very fair call. I have just one last question, or I might lie and make that 2. I wanted to understand the thing. You've got a lot of famous quotes and a lot of famous words, right? But I'll pick this one piece. How do you balance between being conversational and being direct in your messaging? Is there certain tone mechanisms that you use with your AI prompting? Oh, okay. I hear this.
Yeah, it's not. So, and this is something new that we're like looking into right now. I try to be very direct. And I still try to think about how would I email this person if I were manually emailing them is still the thing that, and now I think everybody should get a tool called Whisperflow. And also
it's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. And then also we'll do a lot of our copywriting in ChatGPT, not even because I want ChatGPT to be doing my copywriting, but also because there's something about turning the transcribe button on that I don't get writer's block because I'm just staring at it. I'm just talking at it. And then I'm like, well, the microphone's on. I got to say something. And then I also work faster for copywriting on that. And because I'm saying the copywriting out loud, I feel like that really helps as well. So those 2 things is just very helpful. But then the other thing I would say for conversational versus direct, I actually think we might start seeing people loop around, and I think longer emails are coming back into style because I think people kind of know now, and they're kind of used to this just short, punchy email.
Yeah.
That they know that if they respond, and this is my theory, I think they know that if they respond, there's going to be another person on their side who's going to try to book a call immediately. But they have questions about things that they're not really interested in. They're not interested in a call unless you answer some of their questions. And so I even think it's kind of not in vogue anymore to gatekeep. It used to be a big thing of if somebody asked how much, you ignore it and then just try to book the call and you give some kind of objection handler. I think you should just share pricing. The amount of times I see our customers do that, and then the person's like, if you're not going to tell me the price, I'm not going to take a call with you. It happens all the time. And so I've got one guy. So private equity deal sourcing is probably our favorite sector to play in. I wish we could form a whole business out of it, but there's like the market is just kind of interesting. They want services that I don't really want to do. There's just a whole bunch of reasons why we don't do it. But if we have a unicorn of a private equity customer that wants to do private equity deal sourcing, we love running those campaigns. And so we have had people come to us and say, hey, we think we could beat your baseline campaign. Can we try this? And it usually adds some level of complexity that maybe you interest somebody, but the complexity is just wrong about their business because they're adding complexity about privately owned businesses that you're just not going to be able to get this stuff. So we have a template that works. It's our best performing template. It's just what we run. It's what we suggest to everybody in this private equity space. One guy came to us. He has a search fund. It's just him. And he's like, this is the email I want to send. And it was, and when we say, I joke, whenever people say, oh, you guys are sending 4-paragraph emails, I'm like, oh, my English teacher would laugh at us because these aren't 4-paragraph emails. These are 4-sentence emails online. Yeah. These aren't paragraphs. He sent us 6 paragraphs, 3 to 4 sentences in each one. And I was like, my dude, this is not going to go well. Like, this is really, really, really not going to go well. And he smashed our reply rates. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But basically, when you think about when we're selling for a private equity company, we want to buy any business and we don't really care what's on the other side of it. And we're just trying to get a response. He was telling, I call it a love letter because he was telling his whole life story. He was talking about why he even wants to acquire businesses, how he wants to do it, his plans, all these other things. And it's just so different from what everybody else is sending right now that we're doing some testing of trying to send a little bit longer of an email and be on the prospect side of like, hey, if you're interested, I'm putting more information in the PS line because I don't want you to respond without having more information. And this email is too short. And we do that for clay.com, and that's working well for clay.com, but it's also like a more intricate product to explain more things on. So that is, when it comes to direct versus conversational, we are starting to think about maybe putting in some more content. We might start seeing a wave jump back over if you can have a reason to come. It's like David Ogilvy's, like, you want to sell, like line 1 should sell line 2 and then sell line 3. You want to make it longer going, but that is something we're experimenting with now. But other than that, short answer on top of that is like, we are trying to be much more direct. We don't do anything. I see a lot of people who are like, oh, is this interesting to you? Or is this a focus? All of our CTAs are, if we could help you with X, would you want to chat sometime next week? I don't also say like, let's book a call next week. Because when I receive those emails, I'm like, I don't really like being spoken to that way. But it's some variation of that, trying to go for a call because our customers want calls and we need to tee them up to be able to get calls.
So like, if I were to just summarize that, like, or like just tell in that is, you won't say, are you interested? But you'll sort of lead with like a semi-direct, if this sounds good to you, can we chat a bit more? You're sort of doing like a consent-based response and then sort of hammering it. Okay, cool. Yeah. Makes sense. Last question on this, to call it a day. You're doing AI. How do you A/B test, man? I think that's it. I don't even want to go too structured on this question. How do you A/B test something like this? Like, how does this even, like, how do you figure out that this is where I need to go? Like, I mean, you're a genius, we know it, but how do you get to funneling your decision metrics?
Yeah, so this is one of those things that, like, as you grow a company, is like one of the really, really complex things to make sure you have time for, because as you keep growing, there are things that you're like, you could totally get away. So one thing is, we run free tests for people to just make sure we can even get leads for them before they pay us a dime. And that I'm very interested. I haven't spoken to a lot of agency owners about this because I unfortunately just kind of don't have time to, but I would be interested to hear about the mix of customers that they have that are getting at least 2 positive responses a day versus the ones who aren't. Because I would say we're like now probably like, maybe I could do the math, but it's like 80-20. It's not like 85-15. Like 85% of our customers are getting at least 2 positive responses a day. And the way we do that is because I just have this hypothesis where it's like, look, I bet we can just prove to them that we can get leads. And I think a lot of outbound marketing doesn't really have anything to do with how much of a genius I am or you are or any of those things. It's just how does the market, because I don't think there's a lot of ways. If you do Google reputation management, how many different ways can you say, hey, if you have a bad Google review, I'll remove it for you, and you only pay after the removal? It's just, that is what it is. And so when we're doing A/B testing, a lot of times it's on more complicated products. And so we helped run Clay's Outbound. We used to do all of Clay's Outbound, and now their team is getting like more involved in it. So we're running a fraction of Clay's Outbound now. One learning that we had from them was on their website, the most powerful value proposition is integrate with 200 plus data providers and, go crazy. On outbound email, nobody cared. That was like not the thing that people cared about. The best performing campaign for them is saying like, hey, I saw the work you did with this company and I had a question for you. When you close deals like that, how are you automatically finding more companies that look like it and then automatically prospecting those accounts? We have a platform that lets you do that automatically. And so that's literally just a lookalike play, right? That's all it is. And when you think about that, that is like 1% of Clay's functionality. It's a little sliver of Clay's functionality, but it gets like all the positive responses. The only other thing that gets more or as similar is we use Claygent to sell Claygent, and we'll just like email people, and we're literally like, hey,
it's the most obvious sell, right?
Yeah. We're like, hey, this is all of the automated. We did 3 automated research items on your website that no other data provider has stock. We found this is your pricing. We found some of your recent news off your website here, and this is the link to it. And then the third bullet point, again, using that creative ideas thing, we're like making sure each bullet point is different. Then the third bullet point is like AI generating what they would want to manually research about their prospects. So it's like, we found your pricing, we found your recent news, and we believe you could also use this tool to find hospitals that are building a new location or something like that. And so then that one works pretty well too. Again, Claygent is, I don't even want to say 1% because Claygent I think is like the most powerful feature of all of Clay. But so getting back to split testing though, I don't really like doing split testing for the sake of split testing. I really like to say, okay, is the list different, and is the products and pain point different, so that we really can see like, what's the sexy thing? Because even as an outbound agency, if I were to say, hey, we like Taylor Horan actually has a great Taylor actually, like, I don't even disagree with Taylor on a lot of things. We just do a lot of things differently. He starts his outbound emails with, if I could email everybody in your TAM in the next 2 months, would that be useful to you? And he's kind of like selling the dream in the very first line of the email, which I really like. I think that's really, really punchy. But if you were to split test your own features and benefits and things, I've split tested emailing people that don't have a DMARC on their website and have sales teams and say, hey, you need a deliverability audit. Nobody cares about that. But if you tell people like, hey, we have a free test and this is how it works, would you want to engage with it? Way more responses on something like that. So I'm split testing more of like, you have your overall outcome that you create for people. I want to test that. And then there's individual tiny things underneath that outcome that make that outcome happen. And those are the other things that I want to be testing for as well.
Fair play. Okay. I was going to go for metrics that you're going to chase, but I think I got that with respect to just focusing on the first part, which is opens and replies in the anyway. And that's going to just tie back into that and to see which mechanism works or which framework has worked best for you in terms of opens and replies as the ultimate signal, right? In terms of conversions. Okay.
Well, then, yeah, everybody, and Enzo hates it when I talk about this. Everybody asks like, what's your average positive response rate? On average, it's tough to get it like right this second because of the latest Google shutdown deliverability issues and things like this. So like our numbers are a little bit skewed, but because of global analytics, we can tell very well now. And it's like on average, if we're sending 400 emails, on average, we're getting a positive response. But that comes with a lot of caveats. It's also like, what are you selling? Who are you selling it to? How big is your contract value? Because then people will go to Enzo and they'll say, hey, Eric said the average is 400. Why aren't we there? And they forget that I also always include that it's like, hey, when we do Google reputation management and we give them that offer and we say, we know you have a bad review, 1 out of 70 people are going to respond to that. But it's a no-brainer offer to respond to. We have another person who sells super enterprise software that would affect the entire team, has a really long implementation cycle. We have to email like 2,000 or 3,000 people before we get a positive response. But their contract value is like $200,000. So every lead to them is worth so much. And so I always think about, I'm not so concerned about how many people do we have to reach out to. Obviously, you want that to be as low as possible. But we also want to consider, okay, if you have 50,000 people in your TAM and you're getting one positive response for every 2,000 people you reach out to, does 25 positive responses support the CAC of doing cold outbound through an agency? Probably not. Does it support the CAC of you doing cold outbound by yourself? Maybe. But then if you've got 1 million people and you're getting one positive response for every 500 people you reach out to, let's go crazy. Like, that CAC is definitely going to work itself out. And so it always really comes down to CAC whenever it comes to these like averages, because who cares what the market average is? It matters what your average is and what can you do.
Fully aligned with you on that part. Fair play. Well, Eric, thank you for this one. Everyone, we're on episode number 3 of a 4-part series. The last one's going to be the most saucy one as expected. We're going to go into campaigns and action. And what we mean by that is effectively understand the actual framework, the engineering behind the framework of how this genius creates what he does and drives the revenue that he drives. So, Eric, thank you. I'll see you in the next one.
Absolutely.